Jaquin El Chapo Guzman, maybe the most notorious drug lord ever to exist, has been on top of the world's drug trade for years. Police have caught up with El Chapo twice. He first made headlines in the early 90s when his Sinaloa cartel was involved in numerous murders, leading to his arrest in 93. He would go on to spend the next 8 years behind bars. But in 2001, Guzman escaped. A paid-off guard, Francisco Rivera, opened his cell and helped him climb into a dirty laundry cart that the guard led down a hall leading to the front gates. In the parking lot, Guzman quickly jumped into the trunk of a waiting Chevrolet Monte Carlo and he vanished. It would take an astonishing 13 years of being on the run and being among the most wanted fugitives in the world before El Chapo was finally captured again. It lasted just 17 months. Footage shows Guzman walking towards his shower before seemingly disappearing. His loyal cartel dug an absolutely incredible tunnel reaching a mile long that experts claim must have taken over a year of planning and building to accomplish. This opening inside the shower led to a ladder going over 30 feet underground, which then led to the mile-long tunnel, outfitted with a custom motorcycle on a track and ending in an abandoned old house where he was met with freedom, knowing he had escaped Mexico's toughest maximum security prison. His freedom lasted just 6 months, and he currently awaits extradition to the United States. The Texas 7 were a group of prisoners who escaped from a maximum security prison on December 13th of 2000. Using quite an impressive plan, one of the men would call for a guard to come their way, away from the general area, where others were then waiting to hit them over the head, unconscious. The guards were then tied up and hidden in a nearby room. While escaping, a total of 16 different guards, civilians, and fellow prisoners were overpowered and tied up by the men. Using clothing from the guards they had tied up, 4 of the men dressed as guards. The other 3 used clothing taken from civilian victims and posed as workers installing cameras. The civilian dressed men used their cover to raid a watchtower, overpowering the guards. Meanwhile, the other 4 called across to the other tower as to create a diversion. After stealing a truck and driving to a back gate, the 4 men picked up the other 3 and all 7 escaped, unbeknownst to the rest of the prison. On December 24th, the 7 would rob a sporting goods store, to which an on-duty officer, Aubrey Hawkins, responded, and he was shot 11 times. This led to major media attention and led to all 7 being caught. However, only 6 were captured as Harper committed suicide. All 6 were then sentenced to death, and as of today, 3 have been executed while the other 3 remain on death row. Alcatraz, the infamous prison that in its time was thought to be the most secure a prison could be. Surrounded by rushing, shark-infested water, made it impossible to escape, or so they thought. On June 11th of 1962, Frank Morris and brothers John and Clarence Anglin crafted impressive dummy heads, complete with real human hair, to be used as decoys for guards making their routine rounds. Using homemade drills to widen vent holes large enough for the men, all 3 slipped through. Once through the cell wall, they climbed down a drain pipe that eventually led them to the water. The crafty men had made life vests using raincoats. Then, the men were gone. Despite multiple theories, it remains unclear whether or not the men got away. However, all 3 were declared missing and are thought to have drowned in the harsh cold waters of San Francisco Bay. It took the law years to catch up with Frank Abagnale, a renowned conman who became the inspiration to the movie Catch Me If You Can. His impressively long list of fraud would eventually catch up with him and got him a 12-year prison sentence. But like he had been for years, Frank got lucky. The United States Marshal transporting him to the prison forgot the detention commitment papers. Without even knowing it at the time, this was huge. An educated, well-spoken man whose papers happened to be missing led to talks among the security guards of Abagnale actually being an undercover inspector. He caught wind of this, and seizing the opportunity, he contacted his friend Jean Sebring, who created both an FBI ID and a prison inspector card for him. Using those two cards, he eventually revealed to the guards that they were right about him, and that he was indeed an undercover agent, and to prove this, they simply had to call the number on the card. Upon doing so, a friend pretending to be an FBI operator claimed he needed to speak to Frank outside the prison immediately. Believing he really was a federal inspector, the guards let Frank literally walk out of the prison as they watched. In 2015, David Sweat and Richard Matt, both convicted killers, accomplished what no one had done before them in over 170 years. They broke out of the maximum security Clinton Correctional Facility in upstate New York, known as New York's largest prison. They knew it wouldn't be easy. After creating a plan to escape through an incredible maze of tunnels, the pair needed to entice someone from the inside. Insert Joyce Mitchell, the prison tailor. The two convinced Mitchell to hide hacksaw blades within frozen hamburger meat that she then smuggled to the prisoners. Using those saw blades, they cut into extremely secure steel walls, and then a large pipe that would lead the pair to a manhole in Danmore, New York. However, the pair's planned for getaway car wasn't there. Thus, the two did what they had to. They ran. Remarkably, it would be 3 weeks before police caught up to the two living in an abandoned camper. After refusing arrest, both were shot. While Richard Matt died, David Sweat recovered and was once again imprisoned. During the Second World War, Nazi Germany imprisoned and abused millions of people. One of those prisoners was Leon Feldhendler, located in Sobibor death camp. Feldhendler, along with Alexander Pechersky, a captured Russian soldier, planned a deadly attack. While the extremely feared SS officers ran the death camps, the actual guards for this particular prison were Ukrainian. Their theory was that if the over 600 prisoners would all come together and kill off the SS officers, that the Ukrainian guards would lower their guard as they weren't as loyal to Germany. Secretly, prisoners then began building weapons and storing them despite knowing that they would be immediately executed should they ever be caught. On the night of the escape, the SS officers were brought into the workshops individually to pick up materials and items that they had demanded the prisoners to repair. As the officer would come in, prisoners would raid the man and kill them. Incredibly, of the over 600 prisoners, 300 escaped. Of those, 100 were recaptured and 70 actually survived the war. While that seems to be low, this is a higher percentage than that of any other death camp of Nazi Germany. April 10th of 1998 was seemingly just another day as Jay Sigler waited in the courtyard of Everglades Correctional Institution awaiting a visit from his mother. This wasn't going to be just another visit though. A semi-truck slammed through the prison walls as a team then proceeded to open fire on the prison crew. Following closely behind the truck was his very own mother, Sandra Sigler, who picked him up and along with the others all got away. Not long after, the group pulled over and switched cars, something they did twice in an attempt to elude police. Despite their efforts though, police did catch up with Sigler's mom, along with 2 others, arresting all 3. Sigler and a friend were still at large. It would be less than 24 hours after the escape that Sigler, along with another man, were spotted by an officer who followed the men closely as he awaited backup. Sigler soon realized he was being followed, and a car chase ensued, reaching speeds of over 100 miles per hour. Things would soon go horribly wrong when the men ran an intersection and killed Dennis Howard Palmer, a 55-year-old man. Sigler still attempted to flee the scene by running, but was too injured. His mother, ironically, later testified against her son, who she had just attempted to free weeks earlier, seeking a lesser charge. Michel Vouer, a career criminal with an incredible history of prison escapes, 3 to be exact. After being arrested for armed robbery and attempted murder, Michel was serving an 18-year sentence. However, Michel's wife, Nadine, was determined to cut that short. She began her escape plan by taking helicopter flight lessons. In 1986, Mckel forced his way to the top of the prison roof using nectarines that he had previously painted to look like grenades. Waiting at the top of the roof was none other than Nadine and an armed accomplice in the helicopter. Lowering a cable, Mckel hung on as the 3 flew off. Their plan was then to land in an open football field where Nadine had already parked a getaway car. It took just months of being on the run though that Nadine was eventually captured in southwestern France. Mckel, on the other hand, was captured after a failed robbery that left the man shot in the head. After surviving the wound though, Mckel found himself once again behind bars. You know that small 16 by 17 inch food slot we've all seen in prison movies? Well, imagine escaping through that, because this guy, Choi Gap-Bok, did it. A lifelong criminal, Gap-Bok was serving time under suspicion of burglary. On the night of his escape, he would ask guards to bring him a special skin cream that he claimed he needed. Clearly, Gap-Bok had no intention of using the cream for its intended purpose. He had a secret weapon. He had years of yoga experience and was thus extremely flexible. This, paired with his short height of just 5 foot 4 inches, gave him an amazing idea. After guards went to sleep, Gap-Bok proceeded to undress and lubed his entire body with the cream. He then incredibly squeezed his body through the small opening. It was only 6 days later though that he was once again arrested, and when asked, he claimed he escaped in order to prove his innocence. Vincenzo Curcio, a member of the Sicilian Mafia, is famous for his unbelievable escape from his Turin-based prison cell. After being convicted for murder, he was sentenced to prison. However, the prison was outdated and had been designed to withstand attacks from the outside, while not being designed to withstand breakouts from the inside. As such, the bars were made of a fairly soft metal material, and incredibly, using just a piece of dental floss and extreme patience, Vincenzo eventually sawed through the bars of his prison cell. Finally, getting through the bars on March 17th of 2000, Vincenzo then used bed sheets that he tied together to climb down the prison wall. It was just 4 months later, on July 11th of 2000, that Vincenzo was once again captured and imprisoned.